Hey, so here I am. I'm in Winchester and I'm here for 1 hour in Winchester. So my task is, how much of Winchester can I see in 1 hour? Just like the video title says. Anyway, let's explore this once incredibly important city. This used to be England's most important city back before the Norman conquest. So back before William the Conqueror stampeded into England, I saw a lady littering.
People start pollution. People can stop it.
So we're going to head into Winchester, and Winchester has literally Europe's longest ever Gothic cathedral. So we're going to check that out at least. I hope it's going to be open. COVID and all that malarkey. Let's take it all in. Well, thank you for joining me in another one of my videos. I am Alex, and I am the Wandering Englishman. Join me on this journey, and let's see what we see. I believe this is the west gate of the city, so I'm approaching, in the old times, this is the west side of the city. And we're going to head down, I think, through this little part. I don't think we've got time to visit Copper Joe's Cafe, but Copper Joe's Cafe is 50 yards up there. And now look at this. This is what is known as a Great Hall in Winchester. Of course, Winchester is famous for Winchester School. It's a boys' school. I think Jack Dee is from Winchester. English comedian.
Bring a nice tray of coffee. Any chance of a tea?
Who else is from Winchester? Oh, Jane Austen actually died in Winchester. Her body is laid to rest in Winchester Cathedral. Numerous other actors have come from Winchester. Colin Firth, Winchester.
Are we going to stand around here all day? Or are we going to fight?
I'm not sure how I know this, but this is common knowledge in England to know where these people are from. So it turns out Colin Firth isn't from Winchester. He's actually from Greyshaw, which is a little village 27 miles from Winchester. Apparently, I've done my research now. He got an honorary degree from Winchester University and spent some time here in his early career. So not, in fact, from Winchester, but he does have connections. Anyway, so this magnificent building that we see here is the Winchester Great Hall. The Great Hall existed long ago, but it was rebuilt around about 1222, 1235. But it's thanks to much later in history that it is now incredibly famous for what it holds inside. So you can kind of see what time of year it is, Christmas time. But look at this. It is famous for King Arthur's Round Table. Whoa, I can hear you say. But in fact, this is not the real Round Table, but it was hung here from at least 1263 onwards. So right up behind me is the Round Table. This was actually made in the 13th century. Incredibly impressive. It's basically got all the names of all the knights that supposedly sat around King Arthur's Round Table. Obviously, this isn't the Round Table because it was King Arthur's thought to be around the 6th century, so this being the 13th century. But this was actually painted, I think, by King Henry back in the 15th century. Could be slightly wrong on that one, but I believe that's when it was painted. Once again, a slight error, not the 15th century, but the 16th century. In actual fact, it was in Henry VIII's reign, and King Henry didn't paint it, but it was painted during King Henry's reign in 1522. So just out in the garden here, and King Arthur's Round Table is in the Great Hall. Impressive piece, amazing hall. This is it really, not much to see. Let's quickly go in. We've only got an hour in Winchester, so we've got to do this quick. All right, let's go to the next place. Apart from the Great Hall, very few excavated remains of the original stronghold castle remain. The building is now surrounded by law courts. Not a place you want to end up if you're a local criminal. So I'll be honest, the train ticket from London isn't cheap. If you're getting anytime return daytime, it's about £40. However, if you pick a specific time, which is what I've done, you can get here reasonably cheap for about £10 each way, and you can come at a certain time. I've only really got myself just over an hour, so that's the reason we have to seal this in 1 hour. I'm running an errand. Interesting looking horse. So now we're on the main street, and as of, I think it was yesterday, or no, what am I talking about? As of 3 days ago, things have opened up again. Things have got back to normality. Certain things are still closed. We can start to go about our normal business back in this country as they open up the country once again. Let's see how long that lasts. But as you see, even in one of England's richest towns, Winchester is thought to be one of the richest towns in the UK. Some businesses have gone bankrupt. No place is immune. Possibly closed, we don't know. So this is literally one of England's oldest, most important towns. Back in the 1st century, the settlements started to begin here. And back when the Romans came to England, they put a grid-like pattern on the streets. When King Alfred came to power, he demolished it all, and we had a sort of... he demolished the Roman town and he put grid-like patterns. And I'm pretty sure that this street here was the size of the normal streets back in the day. Hence the reason it's called Hammond's Passage. Not Richard Hammond there, I hope. What's better, the Grand Tour or Top Gear? Anyway, going back to Winchester, as you'll see, Winchester hasn't really changed much over the years. That old Victorian photo highlighting what the city high street used to look like. This magnificent clock that you see here was put up at the end of the 19th century. I could be slightly wrong on this, but the clock just there used to be a bell just above the clock. It used to be known as the curfew bell. So back in the day, after the Norman conquest, keep the Saxons under control, you had curfew bell. Once again, a small error. The curfew bell is actually in Winchester's Cathedral Tower, and it rings still to this day, every day at 8 p.m. And that curfew bell rang at 8 p.m, and that basically meant all fires had to be put out. It basically meant the Saxons had to go to bed, because this is a way to controlling a population, a little bit like what we have today with lockdowns. They had curfews at 8 p.m. Obviously, one of England's most important towns, Winchester, had a lot of unruly Saxons, and the only way to stop them dissenting against the ruling forces was to put a curfew, stop any meetings taking place.
Curfew is now in effect. Please confine your activities to your own home.
It's 2 in the morning, the rain is pouring. Don't mess it up, talking my way. Only gonna push me away. I said, when you say you love me, that makes me crazy. Here we go again. Don't go look at me without looking around. You really ain't going away without a fight. You can't be reason for my time to lie. I told you not to.
As you can see, it's a busy street. It's probably the busiest it's been in a long time.
They know what they're doing though.
What's pleasing, I would say 90% of the shops on this street are still open, the odd exception just being this one.
Would you like the biggest zoo? It's a load of crap. We'll go get rid of them. Afternoon, sir. Maybe the pornos.
Well, later. So you notice as we head down Market Street here, the sort of sandstone structure of the jigsaw building, and it kind of reminds me of my local town, Cambridge. A lot of the buildings in Cambridge have this sort of sand-like structure. I'm going to head towards Europe's longest cathedral. Europe's longest Gothic cathedral, I think. Obviously built well after the Norman Conquest. Winchester actually became a less important town once the Norman Conquest took place, because up until 1066, Winchester and London were on par with levels of importance. Some thought back then that Winchester was the more important city, despite the fact that it's still not big enough to be a city. Population just under 50,000. Look at this, this is magnificent. I have to say, it feels a bit strange rushing around, because a city like this really needs to be appreciated. You certainly need more than an hour to see a city like this, but it's easy to come back. You know, I've been here before, but this is beautiful. That's possibly one of the most British mulled wine places I've ever seen in my entire life. It's impressive. Okay, let's see if we can go in here. It's magnificent. I almost don't want to speak while in this cathedral, but I think it would be useful to give you a little bit of insight into this magnificent cathedral. Before the cathedral that you see here appeared, there was a site immediately north of the present one, founded in 642. The building became known as the Old Minster. It became part of the monastic settlement in 971. The magnificent cathedral that we're actually inside, work began in 1079. And the cathedral, as far as I can work out, was consecrated in the year 1093 in the presence of almost all of the bishops and abbots of England, as well as all the monks that came with the highest exaltation and glory from the old minister to the new one. So where the crowd is over there, it's where Jane Austen was laid to rest. Many figures, as you can see, each stone is marked, have been laid in this cathedral. Masked on out of respect, masked on simply because I don't want to get kicked out because I just spent £10 to get in here. Strangely, the £10 note actually features Jane Austen. So it is Europe's longest cathedral, so let's try and get right to the end, see if it's possible. The Gothicness of the cathedral was really added to in the next phase in the mid-14th century, and this is when the cathedral really came into what we see today. Hi. Choir screens were added in the 17th centuries. So they may have already just recently buried someone there, possibly. However, of course, the cathedral of this age doesn't remain immune to the elements. It has been restored multiple times. Its most significant restoration happened at the beginning of the 20th century, simply because the foundations were waterlogged, because flooding does happen in this area and we are very close to an active floodplain, despite the efforts of the local population to stop flooding. Some incredibly significant funerals and marriages happened at this cathedral. William II of England, his funeral took place here in the year 1100. The coronation of Henry the Young King and his queen, Marguerite, happened in 1172. Richard I of England, he had his second coronation in 1194. Henry IV and Joanna Navarre were married here in 1403. And the marriage of Mary I of England to King Philip II of Spain happened also here in 1554. It would be strange not to suggest that a lot of people have had religious experiences here, but one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is effectively a kind of religious cult, had his first initial experience of God at this very cathedral. So maybe if you're wandering around this cathedral, maybe you will, like Bill Wilson, will experience the presence of God. So let's give you a little bit of rundown on the history of this cathedral. Back in 634, something was built here, and then 650, a church was built. The seat of the bishop moved to Winchester from Dorchester-on-Thames. In 828, Winchester becomes the capital of England. So back then it was far more important than what London is, or Londinium as it was known back then. And then after the Norman conquest, the building starts on this Norman cathedral. It was apparently very, very badly damaged in the Civil War between 1642 and 1648. Wow. I mean, I have to say I've not watched it before, but I know my mother and my father are big fans of it. The Crown has filmed from this cathedral multiple times. I presume, apparently the interior was used as a substitute for Westminster Abbey for the funeral of Lord Mountbatten in season 4. As you can see from the detail, it's quite amazing to actually have this sort of detail and be able to get this close. Normally he's lost a hand, but most of them are in good order. This is very well maintained. We're approaching right at the far end now, so we've effectively taken this long. Of course, we did a bit of zigzagging to walk right to the end of the cathedral. And also St Paul's Cathedral for Sir Winston Churchill's funeral in season 3. And this would be the very end of the cross-like structure of the Gothic Cathedral. And also, once again, when Charlie Boy married Lady Diana for the wedding rehearsals and subsequent wedding in season 4. A show I have yet to watch, but maybe one day I'll sit down and watch a bit of television. Alright, I'm going to head back round the corner. And sadly, I'm going to have to head out of this place. You can't go on the roof, but you know, let's see. Underneath this magnificent cathedral, there is actually a crypt. However, due to the fact that they built this cathedral on a floodplain, it has flooded numerous times over the years, so those buried in the crypt probably are slightly mouldy, I would imagine. However, much restoration has gone on to sort of trying to retain that crypt, but it must be a very frustrating job. Now, if you're a regular viewer to this channel, and if you're not, I do urge you to click subscribe if you have got this far. You will remember my video from Gdansk where the massive cathedral had simply one bell. Well, slight contrast here because this cathedral has 14 bells in total, so you can really sort of hum out those sort of amazing cathedral bells, the heaviest weighing something like 1,800 kilograms. And I think one of the bells was actually made by the Whitechapel Bell Foundry, which is local to where I've spent much of my London life. The biggest disappointment in my trip to Winchester was the lack of time I was able to commit to the Cathedral of Winchester, but I really only had an hour. This is the memorial for Jane Austen, as she is buried in the cathedral. Now that certainly was a highlight. We're going to head on to the next location. Look at this, walking down the side of the cathedral. Away from the city, but like so beautiful around here. Cathedral Grounds, I mean, it was $9.95 to get into. If you had the curiosity, you can use that ticket for 12 months. So if you would like my ticket to use for the cathedral, come pick it up from me. It's valid for 12 months. I'm sure you can do that. Yeah, seriously, if you would like that ticket, leave a comment below saying Winchester Cathedral tickets, and I'll randomly select a winner after, I think, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. Just to get enough comments, I'll use a random comment generator and I'll contact you and send the ticket to you. It can be used for a year. What's amazing, I can hear a river flowing underneath us. The same river that we just saw back there. I think it's almost like a small little moat, but it's clearly going under these buildings. My plan is just to keep walking until the edge of the city, then loop all the way back, and hopefully I don't miss my train and I can get back in time. Really, you shouldn't see a city like this. You should take your time. You should possibly spend a night in a city. There's plenty of nice places to stay in Winchester, from Airbnbs to little hotels, to bed and breakfasts. Get yourself a nice English breakfast while you're here. Why not? Don't be rushing around like I am. You know, when content is king, you think, let's go make a video. Let's go spend 1 hour in Winchester, see what happens. It's like a sort of overgrown mansion there. And here we are, here's the noisy river that we could hear back there. Very fast flowing. Basically, all of yesterday, it was raining and hailing non-stop. The entire country was drenched, and now this river is feeling the full effects of that. I think sometimes there's potential flood risk around here, but because the upkeep of the area is so well maintained, that rarely happens. This is a very wealthy area. A lot of wealth in this area, big houses, no poverty around here. Although, you do remember there was a guy selling the big issue back then, so he is one of Winchester's homeless people, but my guess is he's probably got temporary accommodation and he's selling the big issue just to get by. Do support those guys if you ever see them buy a big issue. They're generally crap to read. It's putting money into their pockets. As you can see, I was wrong about the flooding in this area. It does flood quite frequently. Never a good idea to build on a floodplain. Also, never a good idea to allow your neighbour to tarmac their driveway. This has a knock-on effect where it increases the likelihood of flooding. That's a story for another day. I feel like I'm probably going to do an injustice by going this way as opposed to that way. I know this is going to bring me onto the main high street, but hopefully, I'm not missing out on something significant that way. I'm sure I am. So let's go this way. If I go that way, I get to the castle. Okay, let's maybe come back. Usually when I'm navigating a place, I'm usually referring to Google Maps or TripAdvisor. So over the bridge, I decided to take a right, so I'm now going back to the castle, but I'm going along a busy road. Let's see if we can get there. Really don't have much time. And also, I have very little memory cards, so I'm not going to be doing long shots anymore. There seems to be a theme on this street. We had the Black Rat restaurant back there. We had the Black Hole, which I think is a bar or a nightclub, I don't know. And then the Black Boy pub, all of which are closed. Hopefully they'll be opening this evening. Hopefully the barrels suggest that maybe it's still in business and there is lights on. But somewhere around here is a castle, I believe. I've got to put this down to just check the map. Quite amusing. The house back there is on Google Maps labelled as the castle. Clearly that's not the castle. The man was entering his property and I said, "Do you know where the castle is?" Yeah, he's said, yeah, everyone's been getting that wrong recently because Google is wrong. It's this way. So I think we need to update that, Google. This. I bet there's a lot of tadpoles in there in the springtime. Not many there right now. Of course there's none there right now. It's December. So just behind these walls is Winchester Public School. Very, very good private school. Public schools in England are known as what we call private schools. So strangely not for the public, but apparently one of England's finest schools. And it's interesting if you listen very carefully, and I'm sure I can't pick it up. The sound of schoolboys playing on the playing field and referees blowing the whistle. That's how my memories of my school days were. This big mansion is the Bishop of Winchester. Quite impressive. It's private. Can't be going in there. Let's have a look at the castle there. Well, I see no castle, but that's the prep school for Winchester boys. Well, you're in luck. I'm unlucky or you're in luck, it's hard to tell. The castle is closed Monday to Friday, but it's open Saturday and Sunday. And given that today's Friday, I can't be going in there.
It is a shame that Wolvesey Castle was closed. The original castle was built by Henry de Blois in 1141, but it was eventually destroyed by the Roundheads during the English Civil War in 1646, and since then it has been left in ruins.
Some of these houses, I have no idea what they're worth, but you know what? I'm going to find out and post the prices here. But some beautiful houses. What an idyllic setting. Right next to the castle. Probably next to one of the best schools in the world. Amazing. Quite interesting back there. The two dogs, the two Cocker Spaniels, almost reminded me of my parents' two dogs. Well, when they used to have a brown and white cocker and a brown cocker, or two brown cockers actually. Amazing dogs, amazing personalities. Very similar to those two. It was almost like, you know, when you see someone you know. I paused for a moment there. Look at this. Really, really beautiful. Thing is, you fall in that, you're getting dragged down pretty quickly. Or dragged along the river. But you'll notice this is the bit I avoided, so I'm just coming back on myself now. And we're going to head back onto the main high street. Good to see the pubs are back open. They've been closed for a month in England, and now the pubs are back open on the condition that you must have a drink with a substantial meal. Now, there's a lot of ale producers that have just come up with a new drink called a substantial ale, a substantial meal. So you could effectively, in truth, get away with just having a pint of ale that's called a substantial meal. Some people claim a pork pie or a Scotch egg is a substantial meal. I'd have to agree with them, because who in their right mind would claim to know what a substantial meal is to one person and not to another person? One person's starter is another man's banquet. Some say one of England's finest kings. He certainly was the founder of England, King Alfred. What an amazing man. Thought by many to be slightly evil, thought by many to be also good. Spent many years fighting the Vikings. Imagine he had struggles.
It has to be said though Alfred did consider that there would be an England, it was never realised in his lifetime that would happen much later. And without Alfred and his men standing ground and winning key battles, it is very likely that the people of this great nation would possibly be speaking Norse or Danish, because he was a key figure in the defeat of the Danes / the Norsemen.
In a way, this part of Winchester reminds me of Oxford a little bit, and then this building in a similar sort of design to the Natural History Museum. This is the Winchester Guild Hall, so sort of all council type matters go on in that building. I'm sure possibly people get married as well. I'm sure you can. Could be wrong on that, correct me if I'm wrong. This is one of the victims of the lockdown. These guys went bust during the first lockdown. Used to be pretty good. Pastries and sandwiches now gone. You always know you're somewhere where there's a bit of money because Rick Stein's about. We saw him down in Bournemouth, and now we've seen him here in Winchester, and we also can see him in Cornwall as well. Another casualty of the pandemic. This company announced they were going into bankruptcy only about 2 or 3 days ago, and hence the reason everything must go. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be liquidating all their stock soon. Probably some bargains to be had.
If you are curious about my thoughts on the lockdown and COVID-19, do check out my blog, thewanderingenglishman.com. On there you'll find a number of articles about this topic.
Just spoke to a market trader, and he said that the market is open 3-4 days a week. Obviously the days are a little bit random at the moment because they're only really getting back into the flow of things, and things are up in the air, and crazy people are working for government that want to shut everything down again. Long may it continue. More bells, possibly curfew bells, but no, more modern these bells. You'll notice modern architects don't really get it, do they? We go from the old type of town to the modern, and it just doesn't quite work. I don't know what they were thinking. What you can't smell is the amazing sausages. They do smell really good. I don't know, maybe it's because literally we're a couple of days out of lockdown, but this is like one of the busiest I've seen all of England in a long time. Oh, that smells good. I think it's safe to say there's probably things over there like interesting pubs that we can't really take advantage of right now, but I think due to limited time we're going to have to turn back and take in a little bit more of the centre. I appreciate for people that are familiar with this town, I'm not really seeing all of the centre, but like I say, I've got a very limited amount of time. There we go. One of the strange things about the lockdown that we just had, one of the things that was allowed to stay open were people selling Christmas trees. These places went bankrupt, whereas you could sell Christmas trees. No. Travel bags. Like gone, most travel industry has gone bust, I think, not open. Laura Ashley, the sort of shop where a lot of middle-aged women would shop, and has also gone bust. Closed the store. So the store had been here for 25 years. I know someone who worked here for 25 years and it's gone. But that's okay. Amazon's surviving. Crazy.
What's not to love? You order the groceries online and we deliver them to your door.
So what you see here is one travel company has survived, Childfinders, but Peony has gone bankrupt. Both fairly high-end travel companies.
I've never really enjoyed shopping. However, seeing the high streets being decimated like this, in my mind, is incredibly sad.
And this is where we are. We now find ourselves on a less trodden side street. A lot of traffic, but as you can see, Cafe Nero has gone bust. Another casualty, probably going to go into administration. They are suggesting that they haven't gone bust yet, but they've suddenly started closing stores. NatWest still here. Of course, the bank's surviving. Flight Centre, another casualty. So basically 3 out of 4 travel places we've seen have gone bust. UK's biggest pub chain, Wetherspoons. People will be tucking into their food with their pints. Nice little church, the United Church. Of course, this is one of the casualties of the crisis. This will be open, I think, later. There's no sign that it's possibly been closed, but probably because they don't specialise in food, they're choosing not to open during the day. They probably will be open at night, and I'm not sure how they're going to survive, because the government, if they enforce the substantial meal, will they be able to get away with selling pork scratchings? Who knows? Well, as I approach the busy intersection, this crossroads here is pretty much the train station of Winchester, just up there. And I've reached the end of my destination. I've conquered Winchester in just over an hour. It's been about an hour, 10 minutes, and I've literally breezed around it. A wonderful, wonderful city. I urge you to spend at least one night in Winchester. Spend a lifetime there if you fancy it. There's less than 50,000 people live here. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. If you like this content, click subscribe, and I will be doing more content like this. Hopefully next time I'll be less rushed, but who knows, maybe you like the rushness. I personally prefer to take it a little bit slower next time, but click subscribe, I'll see you in the next video, and until next time, keep progressing.